Alright, hey guys, John here again today, out at the field, getting ready for a practice. I want to take some time and break down the importance of the shoes. It's all about the shoes, right? Well, yes and no. To a point, having the right footwear is just going to add confidence, add longevity to your body, decrease injury, increase performance, all that good stuff. But at the same time, I have thrown well with a very minimal shoe on flat powder surface like we have out here. Is real challenging this time of year here in Central Oregon. I'm either throwing off of something like powdered dirt and basically no grass, or something really heavy saturated grass, so there's kind of no in between. So starting out, I want to break down, this is a BS Athletics. I'll have all this in the notes here on the page as well, the different types of shoes, so you can look back at that as a reference. But this is a very minimal, basic flat shoe, rotational shoe, so there's nothing on the bottom there, just that grippy surface. So nice off of cement, it's flexible, something I can train in basically year round, get lots of reps in, nice for doing rotational type of drills, stones, sometimes weights, and maybe spinning weight over bar, things like that. Also wear them something hybrid wise in the gym. I can keep it on while I'm doing some basic, say, kettlebell work, even certain barbell movements. I wouldn't do a bunch of Olympic lifting in this shoe and then go and throw, but a nice hybrid type of shoe. Fairly inexpensive, just over 50 bucks. There are some heavier duty rotational shoes that I don't think are necessary, but will give you a little bit more slip feeling when you want to go on cement and really turn well, maybe save your knees, things like that a little bit. So next one, talk about something much more aggressive, and also just to share with you kind of the price range and things like that too. This is really cheap. This is something I found just at a discount Nike outlet for, I think, like 12 bucks, something like that. So this is, I think it's a baseball cleat, and it just has some really aggressive, you see the bottom of this, real aggressive cleat there. So digging, if I'm landing on my heel at all, I'm really gonna grind that ground, maybe slow myself down, put some torque on my knee, things like that. But something like weight over bar, maybe sheath even, definitely caber on a more surface that I'm concerned with digging my heels in, getting a nice lift, not slipping, wet conditions. To a point, it's kind of a point of diminishing returns, but if it's really muddy out, things like that, I might throw this on, would be my go-to potentially for that. But very rarely I would wear this nowadays, and again, the more proficient I am, the more balanced and kind of synergy without pulling myself out of orbit with the weights, things like that. I find that I don't really need much of a shoe. The shoe is just a nice tool. And again, back to this one, this becomes a nice corrective, kind of self-limiting thing. If I'm able to move well on this shoe and glide across those surfaces, it's a nice indicator of progress and fluidity of that throw, for example. Nice in-between shoe. These were probably 30-40 bucks, I think. I think this is a soccer indoor, like a turf cleat. You can see this cleat has more minimal, but it does have a little bit of a consistent cleat. I also like this. I have a narrower foot. A lot of throwers, bigger guys, are gonna have some different preferences because they have a bigger foot. Everybody's a little bit different. It's not, of course, one size fits all, but I'm speaking to what works for me and a variety of different throwers that I work with in different capacities, so I can give you that spectrum range pretty well too. So again, this is a nice light flexible shoe. This is a nice training mid-higher volume shoe, kind of mixed surface conditions. This is like my utility shoe. If I had one shoe, it would be this one. These have also worn really well. It's also a Nike. This is about 5-6 years old, and I even train in these fairly regularly when I'm just on grass type of surface, or again, this powder, lovely non-grassy surface that I can throw off of. This is a nice go-to. I trust this shoe really in all conditions, and again, I'm not going to slip slide around unless my form is really off anyways, so it's just kind of what it is. The high top option, especially maybe for caber, somebody with some ankle limitations, just having that when they're standing the caber up against the ankle, that can even feel more comfortable. Give me a little bit more sense of confidence in some cases, but also feels a little bit clunkier, feels a little less athletic and light and mobile. So I don't tend to wear this one very often. I used to wear these more. This is the Tunnel 360. It was more popular when guys like Larry Brock were talking about these, but it's a rotational cleat, so it's made for turning better, at least in theory. Not a bad shoe for weights and maybe even stones for someone who's really wants that rotational or glide type of technique, that wants to get that bite and lift a little bit more focused on that than the rotational part of it. Next one here, more specialty, something I would wear for standing weight over bar only, and or maybe sheath, something with a little bit of heel so I can dig and compress that kind of time under tension, drive off of my heel just a little bit longer with that pull, with that finish. So this is just my older pair. This is a Rogue Do-In Olympic lifting shoe, so it's kind of my retired gym pair that I'll just keep in my field bag. Otherwise I'll go back and forth and forget where I left my shoes, have to clean them when I take them inside and out, that kind of thing. So it's nice to have a dedicated separate pair. These are probably $100 originally. Obviously they have some mileage to them too, so they'll last quite a while as long as you take decent care of them. So that's a nice option. The last but not least, of course, is the Blade, the hammer boot with that spike at the end. So not huge explanation, I don't think, needed to most experienced Highland Games athletes, but this gives me a nice bite into the ground. Of course, you see my choice of blade has a little bit of a dip here in the blade. It's not too long, so something to consider there. Something that's not too intense depending on the conditions that you tend to throw in. It dries out quite a bit here in the Northwest at most games, so I need to get under the ground and just enough to feel like I'm locked in. There's some guys going with even shorter blades nowadays, different options there. I don't like something too heavy of a boot. This is a Merrell. Having a nice sole to the bottom makes a difference how long these last. These are probably 6-7 years old too. Not too sharp of a blade in case you did stab someone else, stab yourself in the leg. Again, something to consider, enough to get under there, kind of that Goldilocks effect of something not too intense of a blade, not too intense of a sharpness to it, but that's going to dull, of course, as you get going, and just being able to walk and not tear the bottoms out, things like that to consider. And again, back to the rigidity of it, this is kind of a mid flex. I don't lace them up too heavily on the top of the boot. I'll focus more on this lower part, so I have a little bit of flexibility. I'm anchored down where I need to be or how I need to be, and I'm also able to have some flexibility where I'm not just in a rigid, stiff kind of position with my ankle or completely suctioned down to the ground. So again, hopefully that helps in a little breakdown of that whole continuum of shoes that I like to wear. Speaking to another couple options, people talk about different spike, different more track type of shoes, and like javelin spikes, things like that. I haven't really spent a lot of time in those type of shoes, so I can't really speak to that too much, but tends to be guys with something that they want a heavier duty. They're heavier guys, heavier duty shoe that's, again, more all-purpose, things like that. So you can consider those options as well, depending on your body type. If you're built more like me and you're closer to lightweight kind of class, you're a more spring-loaded type of athlete, you want to go with something probably more minimal and flexible, things like that. If you're a heavyweight, you have any foot problems, ankle problems, to a point, I'd like to see you spend some time barefoot in minimal shoes, but when it comes to throwing in that high-intensity performance edge of things, considering all those options and looking at what, of course, is going to fit you best.